is called the 25X rule. Now, the 25X rule is really simple. And what that says is you take your monthly expenses and you multiply that by 12. So let's say that your monthly expenses are $5,000. Multiply that by 12, and that equals $60,000 annually in monthly expenses. Now, you want to include everything in this. So all of your monthly expenses, that's your taxes, your insurances, your food, your fun, everything. So the 25X rule says take your annual expenses and multiply that by 25. And that gives you how much money you need to have saved before retiring, okay? So if you've got $60,000 in annual expenses, multiply that by 25, that's $1.5 million that you need saved in retirement investments and retirement savings before retirement. So that's using your monthly expenses. Now for my clients, I like to actually go even deeper or actually even more conservative, and I like to use their annual salary, okay? So this is using expenses. I want to use salary. So let's say we have a single man or a single woman, whatever, and they make $75,000 a year. Multiply that by 25, okay? So 75,000, let me grab my calculator here. 75,000, multiply that by 25. That's $1.8 million. So $1,875,000. And that's how much you want in retirement savings and investments in order to start considering retirement. Now, what I like about the 25X rule is you can use both these rules and you can say somewhere in the middle is where you need to be. Okay, now this is not an all in all because we're going to talk about some more rules of thumb. But the 25X rule gives you a really good way to kind of say, am I on track? Am I getting to where I need to be? Because you might have this amount saved for retirement, but you might be 45 years old. I don't know if $1.8 million at 45 is going to get you to 100, right? There's a lot of things you have to think about when it comes to your retirement savings and investments. But this is a good idea to find out, have I saved enough for retirement? All right, so the other rule of thumb we want to talk about today is called the Rule of 200. Now, the Rule of 200 is very similar to the 25X rule. And basically what the Rule of 200 says is take how much retirement income you want a month. So let's say that you have $4,000 in monthly expenses, but you want another $4,000 on top of that for spending in retirement. So you have $8,000 in a retirement income want. So that's a monthly income number. So you take the $8,000 that you want in retirement income, you multiply that by 200, and that's going to give you $1.6 million. And what that's saying is you want to have $1.6 million in retirement savings if you want $8,000 a month in retirement income. We're also assuming a 6% rate of return on our money that's in the market. Okay, so if we get less than a 6% rate of return, like this money can't sit in the bank and you just pull $8,000 a month off of it. It's got to stay invested, okay? Now let's compare the Rule of 200 with the 25X rule. So the 25X rule says take $8,000, right? This is what your retirement income want is. Multiply that by 12. What is that? I got to get my calculator here real quick. 8,000 times 12. That's $96,000 annually, right? So now take your annual expenses, multiply that by 25. So 96,000 times 25, and that's $2.4 million. So the 25X rule says you need at least $2.4 million in retirement savings to retire. The Rule of 200 says you need $1.6 million in retirement savings to retire. So you've got to have somewhere in between here in order to say, yeah, I can retire with $8,000 in retirement savings, okay?